Aninda ji, are you there?
Yes, I'm here.
Yeah, I think we'll just start in a minute.
Yep.
Good morning, Dr. Aninda.
Good morning, Dr. Suresh. How are you?
Fine, I am fine after a long time.
Yeah, almost 10 years now. That lecture was there.
Yeah, and even now, the entire IGNOU remembers that particular conference and your lecture because nothing happened after that at that magnitude.
I know. It was pretty big. 600 plus people were physically present on that day, I remember.
Yeah. No, I think never any other conference had more than 600. So, nice that we are meeting again.
Yeah, it's so good.
Yeah, so currently where are you putting up?
Sir, I've been transferred from India. I'm basically working from London office right now.
Okay.
Staying in Cambridge and working in London.
Okay. Nice. Actually, I have been to Cambridge in 2019.
Oh.
Yeah, I have been to both Oxford and Cambridge at that time.
Correct.
Basically, I visited Scotland, Edinburgh to attend a conference.
Okay,
so from there, I moved to London to visit the UK Open University.
Yeah.
And then I visited the Cambridge and Oxford also.
Yeah. It's Cambridge and Oxford are like pilgrims for all educationists, And
to now. So, with your permission, sir, shall we start?
Yeah, please.
Participant might be joining late also. So we'll start on time.
Okay.
Even now. So, ladies and gentlemen, esteemed colleagues, good morning to everyone. I'm delighted and honored to welcome our Honorable Vice Chancellor, Professor Nageswar Rao sir, and respected Pro-Vice Chancellor, Professor Uma Kanjilal Madam. We are gathered here for the third lecture on Nuances of Scientific Publication. I would like to offer a heartfelt welcome to Professor Venkata Suresh, who serve as the Director of Sources, along with all the directors, regional directors, and esteemed colleagues from Sources, which includes faculty members from various schools within IGNOU. A special acknowledgement goes to our esteemed speaker for today, Mr. Aninda Bose, Executive Editor at Springer Nature. Thank you, sir. I would also like to extend a warm reception to our enthusiastic participants who come from diverse backgrounds, including academia, industry professionals. A special mention goes to our young and promising learners who have enrolled in BCA, MCA, and PhD program. You have joined us for the noteworthy online knowledge transfer series, which is organized by the School of Computer and Information Sciences at IGNOU. IGNOU, as the world's largest open university, promises to bring a unique and innovative dimension to this session by featuring speakers from various fields. The nuances of scientific publications are not mere technicalities, they are the threads that weave the fabric of our collective intellectual endeavors. We must approach this topic with a reverence for the profound impact it has on our society, our understanding of the world, and our ability to address its most pressing challenges. As students, faculties, and authors, let us harness the power of scientific publication to not only advance our fields, but also to improve the human condition and preserve the integrity of our shared intellectual heritage. I extend my gratitude to each and every one of you for unwavering commitment to the pursuit of knowledge. Together, let's continue our journey of knowledge, exploration, and growth. Thank you, sir. Now I request Professor Suresh, Director Sources, to address the gathering.
Thank you, Professor Sandeep. Hope I am audible.
Yes, very much.
Thank you very much. First, I would like to thank our Vice Chancellor, Professor K. Nageswar Rao ji, who permitted us to launch this particular series proposed by Professor Sandeep, which is named as Knowledge Transfer Series. And the third in the series is today's lecture. And I also thank our PVC Pro-Vice Chancellor, Professor Uma Kanjilal, who is constantly guiding us in this particular endeavor. And I especially welcome and thank Dr. Aninda Bose, Executive Editor at Springer Nature Group, currently based in London, UK, who kindly agreed, irrespective of the issues with the time zones. Most probably now the time there is 5.5 hours backward. Okay, so I think now the time here is 11:35 a.m. There it should be around 6 o'clock in the morning. So thank you very much. You must have woke up at least 1 hour or half an hour before.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you. I thank you very much for it. He's basically a very experienced publishing editor with a demonstrated history of working in the publishing industry. He pursued his education from the Symbiosis and Delhi University. And in fact, what I would like to tell to the audience is that we had him at IGNO way back in 2013. At that time, IGNO, together with Springer and Aden, Germany, we conducted a workshop on the research related, like how to publish in a journal, in a scientific journal. It was a big hit. More than 600 people attended it, and people from far-flung areas within India, including those from IITs, NITs, and other reputed institutes joined. And after that, many times we used to receive messages from them saying that when is the next conference? They were thinking that it is a series and every year we will be organizing it, but it is not an easy thing to organize at a massive scale every year.
Yeah.
Nevertheless, I am very happy to have Aninda Bose, and all of you are very lucky to hear to him. And in fact, even we are recording it. It will be in the YouTube as well as Facebook also after you complete it. And in case you want to revise what he said and all those things, you can always refer to the YouTube. And you can also share the link with your PhD students or anybody who is interested in research. So I thank and welcome Aninda Bose once again for agreeing and spending time being in a different country with a different time zone. So thank you very much, Aninda. Most welcome. Thanks a lot.
Thank you. Thank you, sir.
Thank you, Professor Suresh, for inspiring words. The moment we have all been waiting is here. I kindly ask all the participants to please mute their mic and turn off their cameras. If you have any questions during the presentation, feel free to use the chat box to send your queries. What we will do, we will address these questions during the question answer session. Now, I request today's speakers, Mr. Aninda Bose, Executive Editor, Springer Nature, to start the session.
Thank you, Professor Suresh. Thank you, Professor Rawat. It's a pleasure to be here, although online. As Professor Suresh mentioned, we were there in 2013 and it was a great success. We had a fantastic time and we presented, and it was like 600 plus people were there. And it was an interesting conference this year. And now after 10 years, I am again with IGNO. And thanks to Sandeep for actually organizing this sort of an online platform where people can come and, a series of lectures can be done over a period of time. Because now COVID has taught us that we can live virtually. And in case of any virtual conference, it is a big plus because many people from many time zones can join. Like right now, I'm joining from somewhere else, and you people have joined from many other countries. And irrespective of our differences in time zone, we are here on single platform where we can talk to each other. I will present especially nuances of scientific publishing today. So before I start my presentation and go to the slides, I would like to mention that it is not publication of science. It is scientific publication. So scientific publication means it can actually, we are talking about every domain where we can work stepwise. We should know the policies. We should know the guidelines. We should know how to write a paper, how to structure them, and what are the processes involved in it. That is the whole idea. So people who are coming here from different domains besides science can also very well participate and take knowledge from this whole presentation. And Interestingly, when we talk about all these publication things, it's not easy because within 1 hour, we cannot give you all the information, but definitely we will try to give you certain information which will help you to read more. The whole objective is to guide you with policies, guide you with the links, and guide you with the books, which you have to read on your own and read, and you know more. So there are places where you can go, and it is very difficult nowadays because online so much data is available that where to go and what to read. So that is also important, that you know what are the places, what all documents are there which are actually useful for your research activity, which are useful when you are trying to publish anything with a good publisher, because good publishers have good dissemination. And the most importantly, when people are looking for publication, they look for dissemination. The paper should go internationally to their domain, and people should cite their work, and then it's a cycle. We will talk about it. So let me just share my screen quickly so that we can go to the slide.
We can
It
see
is visible, right, Sandeep?
Yes.
Fantastic. So as I said, the topic is nuances of scientific publishing, and we will talk about many aspects attached to it. Importantly, today is a very good day, and we should start our presentation with some kind of a message. It is basically don't waste food. That is the message I would like to give you. It's an International Day of Awareness of Food Loss and Waste Reduction. We have to work towards all the SDG goals. You will all know that in 2015, Sustainable Development Goals were started by UN, and these are 17 goals, 169 targets, and this is no poverty, no hunger. This is a very big goal which we should be targeting, and it's fortunate we are that it's a day, 29 September 2023. So let's start with this message, that let us not waste any food and help the world to grow. Quickly, I'm coming from Springer, as you all know, who all are having this presentation today. This is an organization which started in 1842 in Berlin as a small bookshop. You can see the photograph of Julius Springer on the slide. He is the person who started this particular bookshop and then eventually moved to publication. Publication was very different at that point of time. Many Nobel laureates have published with us, but many people used to do self-publication at that time. And self-publication was like, they used to go to conferences, like now we all go and then we publish proceedings. But proceedings were not there. People used to have conferences, used to have brainstorming sessions, they used to get reviews of their work, and then they finally go back and they used to publish in journals. Journals also, we have almost passed, 358 years ago, the first journal was published. Even the first publication started by Cambridge University Press, and they started almost 500 years ago. And we are here for 180 years. Obviously, we are doing well and disseminating content of researchers. In 1924, we started our first office outside Germany, that is in Vienna. And in 1946, after Second World War, we started in Heidelberg. Now I am working with London, as Dr. Suresh has mentioned, and London is the biggest Springer office right now. In 2015, we had a merger and the company was renamed as Springer Nature. So Macmillan Science, Nature and Springer, they came together in 2015 and started Springer Nature. Quickly, some highlights, these are numbers which will tell you about how we work and what exactly is the situation of publication, especially STM area, scientific, technical, and medical. Now M is again, little elaborated. Now it's medical and management. From the numbers which are there on the slide, you can very well see that we published 13,000 plus books. So we are one of the biggest book publishers. Interestingly, last year, we have published 410,000 articles, and we have published 154,000 open access articles, which are out of this 410,000. So you can very well see that 1/3 of the articles are, even more than 1/3 articles are open access articles. We are working with many peer reviewers, almost 750,000, and that is the most toughest ask. When we will go through this presentation, you will get to know what all tasks are there for authors, readers, and reviewers. So these are the numbers which I would like to highlight to you, that this is something, there's a great number of articles, books are getting published each year. If you can very well see that we are actually achieving these numbers, and then there are different other publishers, also good publishers. So total numbers are very, very high. Then we will talk about that in our subsequent sections. So the contents which I will cover today quickly, that is why publish, ethical issues, structuring your manuscript, where we will talk about how to structure the manuscript, hints and tips, which are very important. These tips will be useful when you are actually drafting a paper, finalizing a paper, submitting a paper, dealing with journals, and in fact, after post-publication also. Then there are author services and publishing tools. All these applications which we prepare, we create, are very useful for researchers and authors. But unfortunately, until and unless we tell you, you will not be aware about all these apps, or applications. So it is important that we come to you, we tell you about them so that you can use them for your research work. And that is the whole objective of this presentation. First question, why publish? Now, what is the reason for publication? Why write and publish research papers? Many people will talk about many different aspects. Ideally, if we look at it, you can say, to share research findings and discoveries with the hope of improving human civilization. These are all big, talks which people usually do or write, that we want to help the humankind, we want to help the whole community. But usually the practical reasons are very different. Ideal things are very different from practical requirements. Practically, if you see why we want to publish a paper, because we are doing research. We want to publish a paper to get funding. Money is the most important thing which is needed. Until and unless you have funds, you cannot do any research. And if you don't have funds, then research will be stopped. So for getting funds, we need to write grants. For writing a grant, it's a different topic altogether. But that is also something very technical, where you need to write a grant in a structured manner so that you can get funding. Then to get a job, to get promoted, and finally to keep your job. So there are ideal reasons, there are practical reasons, but interestingly, the editors and reviewers and the research community, they don't care about all these reasons. They only care about certain things, which is the quality of the work, whether your work matches with the scope of the journal, whether your work can be disseminated properly, whether your work is ethical. So these are the aspects, whether your work is novel or not. So these are original or not. So these are interesting things which the editors and reviewers are looking for. We have our own reasons, but publication has their own reasons. So let us come to the submission process first, because submission process is something which has changed drastically with internet coming into play. In last 20 years, submission process has been revised and re-revised many times. New platforms have come up. Before that, everything was through postage mail. People used to send their articles through journals, through post, even handwritten articles, which we used to receive them, and then we used to make them, in digital content. And also, this has completely changed. So how it has changed and what exactly is the process right now, if we look at it, first thing, you have a manuscript, right? When you are going to publish, you have a manuscript, and you will write a covering letter. We will talk about covering letter later and what are the importances also. But very importantly, you need to write a covering letter. Nowadays, with digital platforms available for submission, people don't write covering letters. And that is something which is actually not helping to start with the publication process. So you should write covering letter. I will talk about it, what exactly is a covering letter and what are the things you have to include in it. So when you have a manuscript and a covering letter, you send it to the journal. Journal, that means you are sending it to the editor. But interestingly, it is not actually going to the editor, it is going to the journal editorial office. And there is a person sitting at the journal editorial office, and maybe he is not the subject expert. He is there sitting with a list of things, elements, and he will check, okay, are these elements present in the manuscript? Are they mentioned in the covering letter? If they are, then it will move to the editor. Sometimes not again to the editor, but to the associate editors who are there below editor, so that it will go to the associate editor or editor. Once that is there, What are they going to check? They will check whether the results are novel or not. That means they are novel and original. Topic of your work is relevant to the journal or not, where you have actually submitted. If they are not, your paper will be immediately rejected. If they are, then it will go for peer review. Peer review is a process which is the most important process in the whole publication process. Peer review means, peer means friend, the friend who is going to review your work. And who is this friend? The person who is working in your domain, in your research area. A person who is working in your research area can actually check the work and authenticate the work, and they can say, okay, it needs any improvement or not. So peer review again is the big community, and this community is interestingly not any other people. They are within you only. Interestingly, if you look at this whole industry, it's a very interesting that there were people who are writing a paper are author, people who are reading that paper are reader. They are the same people, and same people are again doing another activity, that is reviewing the work. So there is a triangle in this industry, and the similar people are changing their roles from time to time. So there is a peer review. Once this peer review is done, if it is positive, paper gets accepted. But usually the case is different. It ends up here with a revision. Revision means where you have to make certain changes. So peer reviewer will tell you whether you have to add new experiments, whether you have to improve the readability, whether you have to add some information. So there is more work attached to it. Once you have all these details with you, maybe you have to work another 3 or 6 months again, and you have to make your work suitable for the journal. Once it is suitable, it goes back and it is accepted for publication. So this is the whole submission process, which is digitally driven right now. This is electronically driven. There are platforms. Editorial Manager is one of the very well-known and a third-party software which people use for journals. In Springer, we are using for last 3 years, we are using Snap. Snap is again a platform where you can actually go and submit your paper. So electronically, a whole review process is happening. Your resubmission is happening. And finally, you are getting a mail from the journal, whether your paper is accepted or not. That is the decision making. Now, importantly, when you are submitting a paper, the most important question which comes to your mind, how much time is going to take to get an acceptance? So publishing timeline is very important. Many people struggle with this publishing timeline thing because they don't know why it is being taking so much time to even check your paper. I'll tell you quickly about that. Before that, you should know that there is a timeline of 3 to 12 months, and it depends upon the kind of journal. But in case you submit a paper to a journal and your paper gets accepted immediately, maybe 3 days or 4 days time, then it is very important for you to understand this. It is very difficult to do any kind of review in 3 to 7 days time for a paper. So you should not actually submit your paper to that journal. You should look for a different journal. But what are the factors which are important for the timeline? Number one is manuscript type. When you are publishing and submitting a paper to your journal, please read the instructions very carefully. First important thing is manuscript type. That means what are the type of manuscripts accepted by that journal. If that journal is only accepting, suppose, science letters or brief communication, and if you are sending a big original paper to them or a review paper to them, definitely they are going to return it to you. But this return will happen maybe after 3 months, maybe after 2 months, when they will get an opportunity to look at your paper in a complete sense. So you have lost those 2-3 months because you haven't checked clearly that what kind of manuscript type the journal is accepting. So it is very important that you should be clear what kind of paper you are writing and what kind of an article is accepted by that journal. Availability of peer reviewers. As I said, peer reviewers are the most critical link in the whole process. But interestingly, peer reviewers are also very scarce. I can give you a quick example over here. Suppose we take example of Dr. Sandeep Rawat. Dr. Rawat gets 20 mails per day from journals, from books, from conferences that please review papers. Now, he can only pick one paper and review it. In case he is even rejecting that paper, he has to put at least 2 hours of review to it. If he thinks that the paper is good, then he has to check complete thing. That means it's another 6 to 8 hours. He cannot do that in a day. he has to distribute time and he has to complete, suppose, review in 10 days. Once this 10 days, he will receive 200 more mails. So availability of peer reviewers is a big challenge in our industry. You go to ask any journal editor, you go to any conference and ask them, what is your biggest challenge? They will tell you to get the papers reviewed. Then it is number of revisions. We will talk about how to address these revisions also in the later section. But number of revisions are also very important, because if a paper is getting reviewed again and again and again, then the author is actually losing time. I will tell you how to take care of that and how will you address those reviewer comments. The comments need to be addressed very clearly. So these are the sections we will talk about later. And these are the reasons actually why timeline changes in many journals. Your publishing timeline changes because you are not looking at those parameters. So very carefully look at those parameters. Be aware that any type of revision is good, because second or third reviews are very common when you are actually submitting a paper. So don't get disheartened that I am getting the paper again for revision or for changing or modification, because there is someone who is there without getting a recognition or without getting a payment, checking your paper again and again, so that it actually gives correct information to the community and it gets improved. So it is very important that you should be aware that peer review is a positive process. If you can look at this pie chart clearly, then you can see that acceptance as is very rare. That is the green part only. Rejection is quick, sometimes, and sometimes it comes after a lot of effort. But most of the papers, they end up in the revision area, minor revision or major revision. I believe that reading helps your writing. This is a proven fact that when you read more, you understand better. When you read more, your critical and analytical thinking develops, improves. When you read more, then you know what not to do, along with what to do. That is why it is very important that you read more, read elaborate, read interdisciplinary. So when you are reading, automatically your writing will improve. There are two things. You can see the brain photograph on the slide. On this image, you can very well see there are two parts, left and right. So left deals with logic, right deals with creativity. Similarly, you have reading is your logic, creativity is your writing. So they are actually connected to each other. Both logic and creativity in your brain are connected and they work in harmony. Then only you function and you can think and you can reproduce your thoughts. Similarly, reading and writing is also associated in such a way that if you read, then you can write well. Now, make time to read. That is also very important, how to read, because research is not reading a novel. Research is a very technical and systematic kind of reading. So interestingly, what you can do, you can divide your days in such a way that you keep Sunday aside, that is a holiday, you don't touch it. 6 days a week you have, take 1 day for your downloading the work. You sit for 30 minutes, 20 to 30 minutes, 40 minutes, sit and download. Don't read immediately. Whatever is relevant for your research, please download that. Once you download it, then you give 60 minutes to 2 hours once a week in reading them. At least you should read them. Then automatically you will read. And another important thing, what you can do over here, you can create a journal club. You can create a journal club in such a way that people who are doing research in similar areas, you can get associated and create a club. It may be 3 people, 4 people, 5 people, numbers doesn't matter. It matters how similar work people are getting added to each other to create a club. You read the same paper, download the same paper, read the same paper, make notes, decipher the paper, and finally discuss it again. You will find the kind of perspective you have may be something very different from the other readers, and it will help you to understand the paper in a much better way. So reading a paper, making a habit, downloading it technically, and then finally reading it every day and coming to a decision is a process which you have to do when you are doing research. Coming to the second section, which is ethical issues. Ethical issues is very close to my heart, and I believe that every area, not only research, people should follow ethics. Without ethics, it will be very, very difficult to run any system. Importantly, the word copyright is the first word when we talk about ethics in case of publication. People who have seen the music industry closely, they also know that copyright played a very, very vital reason for the kind of problems music industry has faced. Copyright, again, is a very critical thing when we are talking about publication. So importantly, I would like to highlight organization which is actually working very closely with good publishers. It is called COPE, which is Committee on Publication Ethics. So if you are not aware of this site, please go to COPE website and see what all different policies and guidelines are given there. It is very important because all good publishers are members of COPE. And when we deal with any unethical activity, we have to follow the guidelines of COPE. So in case you are already aware of these guidelines and policies, which are actually provided in COPE website, then there are very less chances that you will get entangled in any unethical activity. So please go to COPE website and try to read what is available there. Nowadays, there are case studies are also available, and there is a platform where you can also, I think, have a dialogue with different authors. So now with social sites are getting improved every day. These possibilities are there where you can communicate with others and you can learn more. The next important thing in ethics is retraction. When we talk about retraction, the question here says, what is the most occurring reason for retraction? Before we go into the reason, I would like to tell you what exactly is retraction. The meaning of retraction is very clear. It is taking back. Correct? So what exactly you can take back? When we had hard copy or print publication, there is no possibility of taking anything back from the person who has purchased the journal or a book. We cannot go to that person and say, okay, give back something. But with digital and electronic publication, this is possible. This is possible because the content is available digitally. Now, if there is any kind of unethical activity is happening, then we have the power to basically take that work down. Now, what are the reasons for that? Reasons are honest error, 40%, fabrication and falsification, 20%, self-plagiarism, 17%, and there are other reasons. So first reason, which is like honest error. What exactly is honest error? Honest error is like someone is committing an error without knowing that they are committing that. So what exactly you need to know? You need to know the guidelines. You need to know the policies. I will tell you about more sites and more links where you can get these policies. But COPE, as I said in my previous slide, COPE is a good place to learn different policies. So honest error is something very important. Then you have fabrication and falsification. With internet coming, fabrication and falsification is a big thing. Self-plagiarism means you are basically plagiarizing your own work. You have published something, you are copying, and you are using that work again. Instead of that, please refer that work. Now, importantly, you need to know another thing about retraction. When we say retraction, that means retraction means taking away, but we are not actually removing the content from the website. We are keeping that paper over there with a watermark and note that your work has been retracted because of so and so unethical activity. So work is very much present there. It is a very derogatory on the author's note that it is retracted. We only take away the content completely when it is something which is very, very harmful for the society or community. Otherwise, the paper will be very much there with a note on it, and it is more derogatory for authors that something is appearing there with a note that your work has been retracted because of unethical issues. Simultaneous submission. Simultaneous submission is also something which is unethical. So what is simultaneous submission? That means submitting the same manuscript to multiple publishers at the same time. That means you are basically submitting the same journal article to multiple journals. Now you will say why this is unethical, because I am not publishing in different journals. I am just sending it to different journals. Importantly, you have to know you are wasting time, effort, and resource. And which resource is this? This is reviewers. When you are sending your same paper to different journals at the same time, all these journals are usually getting into the process of review. Once that review starts, we are sending it to the reviewers. So the resources are getting utilized by different journals at the same time and for a single paper, and which is like a crime, because I told you reviewers are the scarcest community in this whole publication thing and one of the most critical links. So don't submit same paper to multiple publishers, submit it to a single journal. If you don't hear from them, you are not getting a correct reply, tell them that you are withdrawing your work, be clear, send a mail to them, give a deadline, and then you submit somewhere else. There is another problem here, which is unethical, is multiple submission. And multiple submission means that is sending several manuscripts, different manuscripts to the same publisher. This usually happens when we have a special issue. In a special issue, in a journal, you will find sometimes, many papers are coming from the same lot of authors, or in a conference, sometimes in a conference. So it is very important for you to see them, go to the homepage of the journal, look at the table of contents and see. In case it's a conference, look at the front matter of the conference, which is freely available. Who all people are basically publishing there? Is it something where the acceptance rate is very high? Is it where the similar type of authors are basically publishing their paper? Or maybe it's a conference by any XYZ institute and some of the same institute papers are getting published. So you have to be very careful. So multiple submissions and simultaneous submissions, both of them are unethical, and stay away from them. Plagiarism. Plagiarism is another word which is people are a little scared of, and they don't like this because plagiarism means stealing. But interestingly, in our world, we have synonyms. We know plagiarism can be changed with overlapping. It can be changed with similarity, but actually everything is same. Even if it is similar, even if it is an overlap, it is again a plagiarism if you are using someone else's work without giving a proper acknowledgement or recognition. There is something called fair use. Fair use is if there is a document called Association of Research Libraries 2012. You can go and read them. And there is also data available on COPE, where you can see how you can fairly use a data from previous work of yours or someone else's work. But my suggestion is very clear. If you have to use any data from your previous work, which you have published, or from someone else's work, which is published, please give recognition, please ask for permissions. Now, how we get to know as a publisher about plagiarism? 3 ways. Number one, from the original author. Suppose you are the original author of your paper, you have published a paper in a journal, and then you see, oh, similar paper, my paper has been copied by someone else. So we get to know from original authors that there is plagiarism. We also get to know it from reviewers. Very seldom, but reviewers are very smart. They read many things. They read multidisciplinary, interdisciplinary, and they are doing reviewing for lot many years. So they actually get to know there is some problem is there with the paper. Sometimes they don't know whether it is plagiarized or not, but at the same time, they can tell you there is something fishy going on. So they also alert us. And finally, we get to know it from people who are whistleblowers. As a reader, suppose you are the reader and you see the same article is published by same people in 2 different journals. That is plagiarism. Or someone else has copied someone else's work and completely reproduced it in his or her name. So that is again is plagiarism. We very well know there are tools for checking plagiarism, right? But interestingly, it cannot identify plagiarism. When you use a tool, it actually tells us about some numbers, some similarity score. And we need a human eye, we need a subject expert to tell us whether these numbers are correct or not, whether the paper is plagiarized or not, even if the numbers are high. I will give you an example and I will tell you how this works. Before that, I will show you, this is the plagiarism checking tool. This is Authenticate, which we use in Springer. We also use Turnitin. This is the inside story where you can see papers are basically listed and reports are generated and percentages are given there. This is another view of the paper where, it is highly plagiarized, very colorful, but very plagiarized. It says 93% similarity. That means this is already published somewhere else and they wanted to publish the same paper again, which is not possible, which is like plagiarism. So what are the tips I would like to give you, and what is the example which I was talking about? Tool cannot detect all problems. Why tool cannot detect all problems? Let us see an example. Suppose you have 2 articles, X and Y. We run the tool. X gives you 30% similarity. Y gives you 10% similarity. Now, looking at these numbers, we are very clear that X is 30%. So X is more plagiarized than Y. Let us go a little deep into it with the subject expert, with the human eye. X with 30% similarity is basically 30 different sources from 30 different places. So that means 1% each. 10% which is there in Y can be direct 10% copy of a method or a result. Now it says 10% here becomes more problematic than 30%. Let me give you another example. X and Y, you run the tool, both are 30%. But X 30% from 30 sources, Y 30% from 3 sources or 2 sources. That means you should be looking at the individual sources also. 30% from 30 different sources means plagiarism is not there. It is actually checking and cross-checking from different papers and getting alerts, correct? So what we have learned from these examples, a low similarity score does not mean there is no plagiarism. Even if it's a low similarity score, there is a possibility it can be plagiarism. And also individual scores are also very important, not the overall similarity. That means the example which I gave, both are 30%, but X is okay and Y is not, because Y has single sources. Sources are like 3 sources instead of those 30 sources. Setting a standard is very difficult. Now, many people will tell us how then to use this tool. Usually I tell them, when you have anything less than 20% similarity, so look at the paper quickly, send it for review. If everything is fine, until and unless it's a 10% or 20% direct lift from a section. If it is more than 20, that is 21 to 35, 40, you send it back to the author very clearly, putting a note that your paper is plagiarized or copied from somewhere else. Please revise your paper. Anything which is beyond 40%, please don't accept it, because it is again complete plagiarism. It is reproducing the whole thing, and the author is not going to make much changes. The author is basically going to change the language, which is like content, scientific content remains same, only the language changes. So plagiarism will be there, and that will be a different kind of a plagiarism. So anything which is beyond 40%, don't accept it. Now, only publications by participating publishers are basically checked in a cross-check database. Now, cross-check database is maintained by all these companies who are selling you these softwares for checking. Now, if it is not a part of the cross-check database, the content cannot be checked. Or suppose a book is there, which is a hard copy book, a print book. So if someone has copied from a print book, the machine cannot, or the app cannot tell you that it is copied. So only publication from participating publishers can be checked. Common phrases are not excluded. Like common phrases which are important for a paper, they are always there. So only a subject expert can tell, okay, this is required. You have already taken permission. Suppose you have taken permission from author or publisher for reproducing of that content, but the software or the tool is not aware of it. So tool is anyway going to highlight that. So only a subject expert can tell you, okay, this is not plagiarism. And finally, there is patchwork plagiarism, which is more difficult to evaluate. Sometimes people do this, but stay away from it because it takes more time than writing an original paper. So it is better to do a quality research and write an original paper rather than doing all these kind of unnecessary activities like patchwork plagiarism and all. Self-plagiarism, as I said in the beginning, it is a type of plagiarism in which the writer republishes the work in its entirety or reuses portions which are previously published. So best thing is basically to stay away from that. Refer your work. If you have published something somewhere, refer your work, that is, and if you have to mandatorily use certain content, then take permission back and reuse that content rather than doing any kind of self-plagiarism. Data fabrication and data falsification. These are the two important things which is there because data is in abundance right now. Everybody is talking about data, although structured or unstructured, but data is available. And more data is available, there are more chances of getting misrepresented or utilized in a wrong way. So when data is available, falsification and fabrication is possible. So general advice to start with, stay away from plagiarism, stay away from unethical activity. Verbatim copying should be put into quotation marks. That means if you are using 1 or 2 sentences only, then you just, without taking permission, please put it into quotation marks very clearly so that these are not your sentences in the book or in the paper or in the chapter. It is from someone else. Give credit to the original author. Now, when you write to an author for permission, many times authors are not aware how to give permission. So it is always good to talk to publisher directly and request for permission. I will tell you how in the next slide. Always request permission for reuse of figures and tables. That is very, very important. If you are reusing any figure or any table from your own work or someone else's work, always take permission and then use it. See, this is how to take permission. I will tell you. So this is a chapter which is published in Springer. This is the homepage of that chapter. All good publishers have these links available, which is called reprints and permission. You go to the reprints and permission, a new page will open, which is rights link. In rights link, they will ask you some questions. If you answer them correctly, you will get back your permission to reuse the content. Now, when it is your own paper, if you are reusing it, there is no money attached to it. But sometimes it is someone else's paper and you are going to use that content maybe for the purpose of a book chapter where you are getting some kind of a remuneration. Then you have to pay some charges for reusing that content. And once you agree to that from rights link page itself, you can have the permission mailed to you. So getting a permission on digital platform is very easy. Go to this link, go to rights link, answer some questions and get the permission back. So don't worry about getting permission, take permission back and then only reuse content. Now going to the next section, structuring your manuscript. Very good section to talk about how you can write a manuscript. You can see that image once upon a time, but you don't write once upon a time in a research paper. These are like more like a fairy tale when it starts with. In research, there is a model which we call IMRAD model. And IMRAD model, there is no rocket science attached to it. It's a very simple thing. IMRAD model is nothing but introduction, methods, results, discussions. These are the 4 key areas which is present in maximum 99% articles. There is an expanded IMRAD which talks about title, abstract, keywords to start with. Then your IMRAD comes, and finally there is references and acknowledgements. We'll talk about in detail about all these elements when we talk about structuring in our subsequent slides. Before going there, we need to know one thing. What is the right order to write? What is the first thing you will write? What is the last thing you will write? That is also very important. Now, hear my question very well, clearly, then you will understand. When we are drafting a paper, we are not finalizing a paper. This is the first time we are drafting a paper. What is the first thing you are to write? The first thing you will write is methods and results. When you are first drafting a paper, you have conducted some experiments, and these are the methods which you have used, and you have received certain results. So the first thing which you will write is methods and results. Next section is introduction and discussion. But before writing introduction and discussion, you have to select your journal. Importantly, because when you select your journal, there is an instructions for authors, and instructions for authors always talks about what is the word length for introduction and discussion. So if you have written an introduction of 3 pages and the journal is asking for an introduction for 100 words or 150 words, then you are in problem, because now you have to curtail down everything. So it is always good to finalize the journal, find the journal, and then go into this next step of writing introduction and discussion. Finally, you will write title and abstract, because both of the things are summarization of your work. Title is summarization of your work and putting it into there. And again, check the instructions very clearly, because over there, it will say whether you cannot exceed maybe sometimes 12 to 15 words or sometimes 65 characters. So it is very clearly mentioned in the instructions that your title should be like this. And abstract. Abstract is the summarization of the whole work. So once you have finished writing all other sections, then only you will be able to write abstract. So let's see these different elements of the paper. That is how you have to structure them. Importance of your title. What is the importance of title? It grabs the reader's attention. As a reader, first thing I will read is the title. It introduces your manuscript to an editor and also to the reviewer. When as a journal editor, I receive a paper, first thing I see is the title. Same thing with the reviewer. They see first thing is the title. It is also a level for indexing. When your paper or your work is getting indexed, then level for indexing is your title. So it is very important that your title should be correct, precise. Convey the main topics of the manuscript, number 1. Be specific and concise. Don't elaborate it. And avoid using jargons and abbreviations. especially acronyms. If it is DNA, which is well known, globally used, then it is fine. If it is not, suppose it's some acronym in your domain only, please elaborate it. Don't put the abbreviation in the title. First impression counts. So first thing I read title, and the first part we are going to read is abstract. With digital world coming out, in electronic content, the whole paper is not available for download immediately. The first thing you will read is abstract. And it is very important that abstract is very correctly written. Otherwise, I will only read abstract and not even download the paper. So abstract, what all things you have to mention there? Relevance of your aims, importance of your results, which is very important. Importance of your results. Don't put results in abstract. Validity of conclusion. These are the three things which you have to write. Again, read the instructions clearly, because abstracts are always written from 200 to 250 words. When I read the abstract as a reader, I judge your writing style. And sometimes in electronic digital world, this is likely to be the only part that will be read, unfortunately, because if I don't find the abstract useful, then I will not download the paper and read the paper. So your abstract has to be correct so that I go into the paper, and that is my first impression, which is there. Now coming to IMRAD. Introduction. Introduction is what? What question was studied? Now, when we write any section in a paper, it is like we are dividing those sections into three different parts: beginning, middle, and end. When we used to write, you remember in our even school days, when we used to write passages, small passages of 150 words, like, if how to make a cup of tea. Even then also, as simple as that, you have to divide that into three sections. You have an introduction, you have a method part, and finally you put conclusion. And that is always there with each and every section of your work. So what is there? Introduction, beginning. Do not write comprehensive literature review. It is important that you keep the literature review to minimum. Don't put it comprehensive. Give references. Cite references from where you have read so that people can go there and they can read on their own. Don't write an elaborative, comprehensive literature review. Middle part, you need to mention what is the rationale or reason for your study. Explain how to address the problem in 1 or 2 sentences, and do not state results from your study in introduction. This is a biggest mistake done by first-time authors. They put the results in the introduction. I can tell you this is a digital world, but how reviewers work. Reviewers usually download and print the paper, and then they shuffle through the paper. They read the title, they look at the abstract, they go back to the figures and tables, they come back and see the results. This is how they move around when they review a paper. The moment they see the result is mentioned in your introduction, they send it for review or rejection. It will come back to you. So you are wasting your time. So be very clear that you don't have to write results in introduction. The end of introduction, it should clearly state specific aims of your study, state the methods you will use to carry. Method section where you will elaborate the methods, but here you can state the methods. Your citation should be balanced. This is not only introduction, throughout the paper. That means if you are writing a paper and submitting the paper in 2023, that means your paper should have references from 23 and 22 at least. If you are writing a paper in 23 and your references are of 2010, 2011, there is a big gap in between. That means you are telling the reader and reviewer that there is no work has been done in this period, or you have not read anything during that period. So that is a very negative impact which is going to will be created in the mind of a reviewer and the reader. So please balance your citations correctly. Next section, materials and methods. Clear subheadings. Divide the section into subheadings. Each method should be written in past tense. New methods. If there are new methods, please describe them in sufficient detail. If there are established methods, you have already used it in your paper, or someone else has already established that method, refer it. Don't elaborate that, because then again you will fall into the trap of plagiarism. Results. Results are again where you have to use subheadings. Use past tense to describe results, but when you are referring to figures and tables, use present tense. Present the facts, do not discuss your results. You have a discussion section, so do not discuss here, only just put the results. Do not duplicate data among figures, tables, and text. Include results of statistical analysis in the text. That means do not duplicate data of figures, tables, and text means when you are putting a table or a figure, it should be standalone and it should clearly give the message. Don't write the table in text again in your paper. When we are talking about tables and figures, they are the most effective way of communication in a research paper. Keep it simple. If it's a complicated image, use separate panels. I am saying again, avoid duplication with the text. Label all parts clearly, includes statistical significance and trend lines, and the legends, the captions of table and figure should be standalone. Discussion section. Discussion section is the most difficult part to write, and especially be humble. Don't overstate your importance of your results, because if you are overstating the importance of your results, you will get back a reply from the reviewer that please take this away. So be very humble for that. The first part, answer the research question. Whatever the research question on which you have worked, the methods you have applied, and the results you have received, answer the research question. Always provide the major or main result first. Don't linger around the unsuccessful results. People have no time to play with the paper. They are serious things, and your paper is a serious message to your domain and community. So be very clear about the main result and put it first. Give your conclusion based on the results. This is the beginning part of your discussion. Middle part of your discussion, interpret the results here. Now, these results are from any previous studies. If they are from previous studies, compare them. Whether they are same or different, give possible reasons. If they are not, if they are new, then elaborate them. Briefly discuss limitations. If you are not doing your work sincerely, you don't know the limitations. If you are doing it sincerely, you know the limitations of your work. And if you are not mentioning them, reviewers will come back to you and ask you to do that. So it's better to put the limitations from your side in the middle part of discussion. Finally, when we are ending the discussion, it usually ends with a signpost or a signal. We write in summary, in conclusion. That means we are coming to the end of the discussion. Mention possible applications. Suggest future work if necessary. If you know there is a future work, maybe you are not able to do because of the funding, maybe you are not able to do because you don't want to do that, and you want other people to do that from their end, you can suggest a future work also, but it is not mandatory. References. References are very important for a paper, and there are two types of references in a paper. Either they are called name date, or they are called numbered. Name date are Harvard style, and numbered are Vancouver style. These are the old methods and old styles. Very clear. Name date is like Rawat 2022, Bose 2023, where name and date. Numbers are either in square bracket or a superscript. Usually we don't use a subscript here because it confuses with any chemistry paper. So subscript are never used as a reference numbering. Formatting is possible because both the formatting places in text references and your references which are coming in the reference section can be formatted by using management softwares. RefWork, Mendeley, EndNote, Zotero papers. I have listed few. You may know more, and if you are not, you will find many. They are basically the software which will help you to work on references. Coming to fourth section, hints and tips. I told you about covering letter in the beginning. Now, covering letters are basically very, very important. There are certain general rules and there are certain must-have statements which you need to include in a covering letter. Now, what are these general rules? Address editor personally. Whenever you are submitting your article in a journal, you know very well who is the editor-in-chief of the journal. Suppose it is some Dr. Sharma. So address him Dr. Sharma. Don't put sir or madam there. Manuscript title and publication type. You have to mention the manuscript title. You have to mention the publication type, which I mentioned in the beginning. Publication type, whether it's an article, small article, it's a brief communication, it's a review paper, it's an original paper, it's a comment. What exactly is the publication type? You mention it. Background, rationale, and results. Don't put the whole result, just a small hint about it. Why are your findings important? Corresponding author details and reviewer recommendation. Even if the journal is not asking for any recommendation for reviewers, please put it. That itself says that you are aware of your networking and domain where people are working in the same area. Always put reviewer recommendations, but mostly 90% journals are nowadays, they are asking for this. These are the must-have statements when you are writing a covering letter, which usually varies from 100 to 150 words. That is, your work is original and unpublished, not submitted to other journals. Authors agree on manuscript and journal. There is no conflict of interest. What is the source of funding and what our authorship contributions are. Now, if you are actually using the general rule and you are using these must-have statements in your paper, you are not going to make any unethical activity because you are already declaring here that you have done all these things. And a person who is sitting in the journal editorial office, who is not a subject expert, can clearly see the covering letter and take a call very quickly rather than, looking for the aspects and coming back to you again, or, there is a communication channel opens because of, not sufficient data available to them to understand the paper. When you have a good covering letter, they understand it very well. Now, where do I find reviewers? This is a good question because I told you that you recommend reviewers. From your readings and references, whatever you are reading and your references, reviewers are there. From your networking, aim for younger and mid-level researchers, because if you are putting names of very senior researchers, they are already there in the panel, they are already known, and so it is not going to make any difference when you are to put people who are working active mid-level researchers. Whenever you are giving these names to journals, they are not sending your paper to these people. Be very clear with it. They are sending it to different people, but they are creating a panel of reviewers where, from similar papers can be sent to them. So finally, when the reviews are checked, then editor is going to take a final call whether you give the name of reviewers or not. So sometimes I see, reviewers look like this because, everything is good, your paper went well, revised well, paper accepted, reviewers like this. Sometimes, reviewers are like this because you get to hear a lot of, negative reviews from them. They are very critical sometimes about your paper. They reject your paper. But mind my words, reviewers are the least recognized people in the whole process, but the most critical people in the whole process, because they are the people who are reading your paper, trying to improve your work without getting any recognition or any amount or payment, but still they are there. Why they are there? Because they want to be part of the process of learning. They want to keep their learning updated. That is why they keep these reviews going on, so that they know what is happening in their area and they keep progressing and growing. This is a checklist, about the manuscript. Usually reviewers use this checklist. So if you are using this checklist, then it is easy for you to pass through that reviewing stage, because if you follow all these questions and answer them correctly in your paper, then automatically you have answered most of them. How to respond. This is another area where I was talking in the beginning about this, how to reply to a revision, important, polite and professional. Sometimes you will find that the questions posed by reviewers are not correct, but they are also human beings. They might be not aware of the field they are working in very deeply, or a very niche area. They must be looking at it superficially. So even if you are getting a reply which is not making any meaning to you, be polite and professional and reply to that. Respond to every comment. If you are not responding to every comment, then automatically the paper will again come back to you. And interestingly, easy to see changes. Make easy to see changes. That means when you are actually replying back, refer to line and page numbers. Whenever you get a paper for galley proof, for proof checking, then there are line numbers and there are page numbers. Refer to them. Use a different color font, or you can highlight the text also. You can also use a track changes, which is like Control-Shift-E. If you do while using a Word file, then automatically track changes is on. Track changes means anything deleted will be also visible. So you can use track changes, and you can want to make easy to see changes. The reason is simple. Maybe your paper is checked by reviewer X when you have sent the paper for the first time. Second time, it is not possible that it will again go to, chances are that it will go to someone, a different reviewer, maybe Y, maybe Z, not the X1. So if you are not making changes correctly, if you are not responding to every comment, it is going to come back to you and you will be penalized at the end of the day for the delay, no one else. These are some certain language minimizing errors. You can use Google Scholar. There is an online writing lab from Purdue University. These are tools, different tools. Target journals instructions, very important. Track changes, as I said. Then there are word count, spell check. Spell check is little dicey sometimes, because I can give you an example, quick example. Suppose I say I'm coming from London, and the word from, I write FORM instead of correct FROM. Still, spell check will say correct because FORM is also a valid word. So be careful when you are using spell check. What I always suggest, before, when you complete everything and you are ready to submit your paper, don't submit that day. Keep your paper and keep it for 72 hours. Don't go to that paper for 72 hours. Don't even think about the topic. Don't do anything. After 72 hours, completion of 3 days, take your paper out, read it with a clear mind. I can tell you, you will find some mistakes which you can easily see and you can correct them. The last section of my talk is basically author services and publishing tools. Here I will talk about some tools which you can use on a regular basis. The whole idea is basically to go and check these tools. If these tools are useful for your work, basically use them. If they are not, don't use them. So once you use them, then only you know, okay, they are useful or not. First thing first, search by subjects. Many people, they come to us and they say, we don't know how to look for an editor, how to look for a journal, how to look for a page. So first thing is, you go to our website, springer.com, go to subjects. If you go to the subject like computer science, engineering, medicine, whatever subject is yours, go to that page. That will give you more precise details about the series, about the journals, about the people who are there as editors, so that you can connect them, contact them. This is a tool which is developed by a company called Edans. This is my journal selector. They have actually a database of 28,000 plus journals. What exactly this is helping you with? This is telling you how to find a suitable journal for your article. Very interesting. When you open this tool, you have to put some details into it. You have to put the title of your work. You have to put the abstract of your work. If abstract is not ready, put some keywords which are there. And these keywords, you can put it over there, which is of your work, not the whole domain. Keywords of your paper. So they do a cross-check, and they identify journals which are actually suitable for you. Once you have a list ready with you, there are 28,000 journals are from all good publishers. So you will get to see there's a list of journals. Check the list, go to the instruction page, and what is the suitable journal, you select from there. So there is a tool which is helping you to find a suitable journal. Reviewer Finder. A very, very interesting tool, because I see this tool as a reviewer finder, also as for networking. When you are looking for a reviewer through this tool, you are actually looking for a person who is working in your area. The person who is working in your area is not only a reviewer, but can be a collaborator also. So your networking grows when you are actually using this tool. This is a page which is talking about author and reviewer tutorials. If you go to springer.com, under services, you go to authors. And under authors, this page is available. There is a journal author page. There is a book author page. So all the resources and guidelines, all the editorial policies, they are listed here. So this is again the place where you can get lots of information. Shared it. This is a tool which we have developed almost 4 years ago for journal articles. Now it is there for the conferences also. Shared it is a link. When you publish with Springer, then you get a link from the production team. And that link is actually, you can share it with people. They can see the whole paper. They don't have to download. They don't have to take a print. They can annotate that, but they can read the whole thing. As I said in the beginning, electronic publishing, only abstracts are visible sometimes when the paper or the journal is not subscribed by your institute. But shared it link, you can definitely get. This also works in a reverse way. Suppose you want to download a paper, a Springer paper, and you see that if you have no access, write to the corresponding author, please share it with me. They will send you a link without paying anything. You can actually read the whole paper. ORCID ID. ORCID IDs are very, very important. If you do not have it, please go and have it. This is a unique identifier for researchers so that your work is correctly cited and identified. So ORCID is unique for each and every researcher. So if you have not registered, please go and have an ORCID ID if you are a researcher. This is a page which is again very, very interesting and very useful, springernature.com/in/policies. Because policies are important, you can only play a game when you know the rules of the game. So publishing policies, editorial policies, book publishing policies, these are different policies which are there. And importantly, there are two more policies, research data policies. We are using data for our work, not only in computer science or data science, we are using data enormously for all our domains. So research data policies is very important for you, and open access publication policies. I told you in the beginning, when I was showing you the numbers, more than 1/3 people are basically publishing articles with Springer in open access. It helps in a very, very big way because papers can actually be disseminated to even low income countries, and they can actually read the papers because it's easily accessible OA. So OA publication policies are also very important. When you want to publish OA funding is important because it's an author pay model where actually journal is asking for some kind of a payment. It is impossible for authors to generate that payment, but funding bodies are there. If you go to this particular page, springernature.com/in/open-research, then you will find there are many funding bodies are there, and they actually help. When you ask, then you get. This is the philosophy you have to follow. Go look for help, ask for funding. There is a possibility of getting funding. This is a website developed 2 years ago by oabookstoolkit.org. They actually worked with good publishers, and they have taken help where they talked about all kind of open access. Open access comes in different colors. They are, designated in different colors: gold open access, green open access, bronze open access, black open access. Now people are talking about diamond open access. Now, what are all these open access? What all features are there? How you can publish in OA? All toolkits are available when you go to this website. Go and see the FAQs, read the details. Our back-end marketing team works very diligently for this particular blog post, The Source, where you can go and also contribute, where you can go and learn. They are all good articles are there, which are open access. It also talks about the career prospects from time to time. And you can get hold of that. You can also have communication with people through this channel. So these are all freely available. The Source is a blog post where you can also contribute. Before I conclude today's presentation, I will talk about 4 books which are very good for references. First is How to Write and Publish a Scientific Paper. This is the 8th edition cover. 9th is out. 7th is freely available on internet. This is written by Barbara Gastel and Robert A. Day. This is a must read for all researchers. This talks about all kind of papers, how to write them, what all the nitty-gritties involved into it. Second book is Getting It Published, written by a publisher himself, William Germano. This is talking about nuances of publication. These are all reference items. These are not one-time read, basically. Whenever you have time, whenever you have a need, have some query, you can go back. Getting It Published talks about different nuances, like why there is a series editor, why there is a volume editor, what is the difference between copyright, what is the difference between publication and patenting. All these things are available. This is a textbook which is used in many universities. This is written by Sana Lu, Textbook of Research Ethics. I told you in the beginning that ethics is very close to my heart. And I believe that if a person is doing research, definitely he has to follow ethics. Otherwise, very difficult for his survival in this community. And finally, there is a book for writing for publication. This is basically talking about different kind of tools. This is very recently published. So you get to know about tools. I spoke about certain tools. It is not possible to talk about everything over here, but definitely when you have a book available, they talk about the tools and apps, and they can tell you how to use them. So these are 4 books which you should refer and get help from time to time when there is a need. So my whole idea of coming over here is to tell you that work sincerely, focus on quality, say no to academic corruption, and stay happy. If you have any queries, we will take it right now. My email ID is aninda.bose@springernature.com. So when you have a query while using any material, while reading any content, or anything related to publication, you can write to me. I will be happy to address them. My answers are always delayed. The reason is very simple. I travel a lot, so I don't get to reply all mails on the same day. But definitely, I love to send replies. I don't delete them. Don't worry. So that is my email ID, which is for you. If you have any questions, let's start with it.
Thank you, Aninda ji, for your excellent presentation. And I'm confident that your session has enriched everyone's knowledge and understanding. So many participants has given the questions in the chat box. If you can go to the chat box, or do you want me?
No, I have already opened the chat box. I'm looking at it. Feedback link will be shared with the other participants. Okay.
One of the question is Hashimo.
It's localized. Okay. The question: can we get the link of slide you are working with to read further? See, yes, as Dr. Suresh has already mentioned in the beginning, these are all recorded things and it will be available. I can do something from my side also. I will send the presentation to Sandeep. So Sandeep has all the details of people. He can send the copies to you. He can send the PDF copy of the presentation. So you can check that again. Not a worry at all, because these are all information for you so that you can read them again, use them again.
One of the question is about the self-plagiarism under retraction.
Yeah, the presenter made mention plagiarism and self-plagiarism under retraction reason. So I need more clarification about self-plagiarism. It is written by Hashimo Suraju. Hashimo, self-plagiarism is basically where you have published your work, suppose in a journal or a chapter or something like that, and you are again using the same content from that work, a substantial content, in your next paper or your next chapter. That is self-plagiarism. Now, easy way out is basically to refer that. Now, in case you have to reproduce anything, suppose an algorithm, you are working on an advanced level of that algorithm and you have to reproduce the first one, there is a possibility that it will show. But that is not a self-plagiarism, because the editor or the reviewer can very well see what exactly you have produced in your paper. And you can also give reference there that this is already published there. So be very transparent with your work. Once you are transparent with your work, definitely everyone will be, it's not that editor-in-chief is there sitting there to held you for your negative activities. No, it is not. See, I always give this example that whenever a teacher sets a question paper, they give out of 100, they always keep 40 marks, which is actually can be answered by everyone. Then only they start setting this, strictness starts from 40 onwards so that everyone passes. Similarly, no editor wants to reject any paper. They want paper, they want to run their journal. So be transparent in your covering letter, be transparent in your work, recognize the work, then automatically your self-plagiarism will be out.
Yeah, one more question is about the covering letter. I think you mentioned.
Yeah, I will come to that. Just a second.
Label. So we have many students who have joined from the African countries. And
that's very good, actually. It's always.
Yeah.
I need more clarification about covering letter. Yeah, covering letter, as I said, there are certain things which you have to mention as must-have statements in it. Covering letter gives you a quick entry to the journal editorial office, I can tell you. Because the journal editorial office person who is sitting there, he or she is not a subject expert. They are not the associate editor or editor of the journal. They are there to check the elements whether they are present in a correct way or not. So when you put all these must-have statements in the covering letter, you clearly mention that your work is original, unpublished. You clearly put relevance of your results. You put the relevance of your aims. These are and you put the funding things over there. So it is very clear to people, okay, these are the details which are already there. They can check all the elements quickly and they can move it to the next stage. See, the whole idea of publication is to have a quick publication. As I told you, number of reviewers is a challenge. Getting the paper reviewed is a challenge. The kind of papers we are getting the total number of papers, I can tell you, 2.2, around 2 million papers are published in English language journals in 1 year. And this is just 30% of paper which is actually getting published. 70% are either in revision or in the process of rejection, which will be worked upon again. So you can very well imagine that 2 million means 20 lakh papers. Out of that, 4 lakh papers are published by Springer. 16 lakh papers are published by someone else. So how much effort is going into it? and how many papers are getting submitted every day. So if your covering letter is clear, then automatically, next stage is easy to reach. Is there another question or new message?
Hashimu Suraju has another question. I think this is very much relevant to our PCMC student.
Yeah. Is the project research for students also included under scientific publication? Yeah, Hashimu, it's a very, very good question. See, project research is not directly a part of scientific publication if you are talking about publishers, publishing it. But a project like this is similar to a research paper. And that is why you have to implement all those ethical activities, and the structures which I have talked about them, they are very same. So any project research, and when you have a very specific project research in a specific domain, then your mentor or your guide will definitely give you a structure. If it is a different structure than paper, then definitely you have a structure present there. But it is not a direct scientific publication. It is not directly coming under the umbrella of publication because it is not done by publishers. Divakar Yadav sir कुछ पूछना चाहते हैं? I think he.
Yeah, sir. Now I am unmuted.
Please, sir.
Yeah, my question is from some other point of view. Nowadays, as you know, there are basically gang of researchers who are working in group, and they are publishing maybe 30 or 40 or 50 SCI papers in single year, and they publish the papers in different domains, the domains in which they do not work. What is impact of this? That after publishing, obviously the quite large number of good publications, they become editor, co-editor, or whatever posts are there, or chief editor. And when they get such kind of post, they help, again they do same kind of manipulations there.
Exactly.
So what happens that the true researchers, sometimes their paper gets rejected, and this problem is increasing day by day. So what steps publishers like you are taking to solve such kind of problems?
Thank you, Professor Yadav, for this question. This is a very, very relevant question in today's scenario, where more and more people are ganging up and they are doing paper milling. Actually, what you are referring to, the technical term is paper milling. They create papers and then they ask their friends to join them, maybe not from their own domain, and they are cross-domain, they are publishing and creating a scenario where they have huge number of papers. And sir, we are very much aware of this, and I said in the beginning, unethical activities to keep people away, but there are people who are unethical. We have a RIG, which is a research integration group in Springer, and research integration group is not only working internally with Springer, it is actually connected to all good publishers. So we have an area where we know very well who are these people are. Sometimes, obviously we are not police and we don't have any IPC regulations where we can go and, but definitely these people are getting us, we are getting us to a situation. We have a huge list. IEEE came out with a blacklist at one point of time. Similarly, we have huge list with us where really they don't know. We don't inform them that they are part of the list, but definitely they are taken care of it by our people. Because if we are not doing that, then it will be all unnecessary and all unethical things will be published and serious research will be totally harmed, which we cannot allow. So the job of research integration group is very, very critical, and they are working behind, and we are the people who are the face working with these people. We take inputs, we take all the feedbacks, and we tell them, please, check the work of these people. Please put a check on them. So they are doing it. They are checking their papers. And especially if you see, there are people who are also not only doing paper milling, they are just going, even not domain, interdisciplinary domain. They publish in any area.
Right.
It's not only they're across areas. So we are taking care of that, and all good publishers are jointly working on it. And there is a research square data which Springer is managing right now. So anything which is there as a preprint is also checked with the Research Square data. And we are also now telling authors to put their works on preprint, which was never a case before. That also gives us a lot of help when the work is already there openly in the domain outside, and reviews can be done over there. We are quite aware of this situation, sir, but everything cannot be stopped, we know. But definitely RIG is working very heavily on these issues.
Yeah,
Thank you, Aninda ji. So I think many questions are coming, and many questions are related to the this presentation. So definitely, as soon as we receive the presentation, I will be sending to all the.
I will send it once this is over. I will immediately send it to Sandeep, so Sandeep can share this presentation. Reviewers are least recognized and they do not get paid much. So how do someone go about being a reviewer for long term? Yeah, good question. See, reviewers are basically not there for recognition and money, that I told you. Every publisher has tried this, giving money to reviewers. They refuse it sometimes even. There are good reviewers, they don't want money. They are there, I told you, for importantly there to enhance their own knowledge. If they stop doing reviews, then they will become obsolete. So to keep their growth of the understanding of each domain, they do this work. Definitely, they cannot do a huge amount of review, then they will not be able to do their own work. But all good reviewers, they basically do the review because they want to get attached to whatever is happening in the latest research.
And also, I will be sharing the this feedback link. So I request all the participants not to leave the session now. And meanwhile, I will also request all the participants to switch on their video if they can.
Thank you. I have one in. I have any question. I will meet you through your mail address. Please write if in case you have any questions. I will be very happy to answer them. There are no worries.
So everyone are requested to switch on their video camera
for the group photo
purpose. And I think the time has come. So thank you, Aninda ji, for the nice presentation and the nice question answer session. If a student has a more question, they can write directly to the mail ID you have shared, or they can send the queries to me. I will definitely forward to you. So
thank you, Sandeep. Thank you, Professor Suresh. I'm glad that this has happened, and I will be very happy in case you just go back and check this presentation again. The percentages are always like this. 80% people, they get the presentation back, but they never open it. Please do open it, and please check. And if you have any queries, please write to me. And most importantly, all the lists which are there, review list, language list, check them before even you are writing a paper, and that will be really, really helpful for you.
Right. Thank you, sir. Now I request Professor Subramaniam ji to propose a vote of thanks.
Okay, so unmute himself.
Professor Subramaniam ji, you are.
Thank you. Dear all, it gives me immense pleasure to propose vote of thanks on behalf of Knowledge Transfer Series Organizing Committee for this enlightening online webinar on the nuances of scientific writing. First and foremost, I would like to extend my heartfelt thanks to Honorable Vice Chancellor and patron of this KTS, Professor Nageshwar Rao ji. I would like to extend my deepest appreciation to our today's distinguished speaker, Mr. Aninda Bose, Executive Editor, Springer Nature, who has graced us with his knowledge, insights, and expertise in the field of scientific writing. Your presentation was exceptional, providing invaluable guidance and illuminating the intricate facets of crafting effective scientific documents. You had explained in a very detailed manner, and all the processes involved in this particular scientific publication is very much spelled out. I would like to thank all the participants who have joined us from India and abroad. Your active engagement has enriched all of us. It's your enthusiasm and curiosity that fuel the success of events like this. My heartfelt thanks goes to our Pro-Vice Chancellor, Professor Uma Kanjilal, and Director, School of Computer Information Sciences, Professor P.V. Suresh. A special note of appreciation goes to Professor Sandeep Singh Rawat, coordinator, KTS, and technical team who worked diligently behind the scenes to ensure the smooth operation of this webinar. Your dedication and professionalism are truly commendable. Thanks to all my colleagues at SOCIS, from other schools and from various regional centers of IGNOU. I can see here RC Jaipur, Chandigarh, Srinagar, Shillong, and other RCs have joined us. A special note of appreciation to all these. As we conclude this seminar, I urge all of you to carry forward the knowledge and insights gained here today in your respective scientific pursuits. Let us continue to uphold the highest standards of scientific writing and contribute to the advancement of knowledge. Once again, thank you each and every one of you for your participation and contributions. We look forward to host many such enlightening sessions in the near future through our knowledge transfer series. Thank you and have a wonderful day.
Thank you, Subramaniam ji. And
Sandeep,
please.
just I want to give one suggestion to all the participants that this is a very, very important presentation and it is useful for everybody across. Okay, it has nothing to play with a computer science or IT domain. Okay, anybody who is into research, who wants to publish a paper, even a lecture somewhere, you need to be very careful about plagiarism, acknowledging all those things. So what I suggest is you copy the YouTube link and forward it across your WhatsApp groups that are academic in nature, so that everybody can get benefited, and even you can refer it at a later stage. Maybe not immediately everything is relevant to you at this moment, but when the time comes, there is no need for you to go and use Google. You can use this link, run the presentation at the right time in your academic life, and ensure that you follow. One very important thing is that many people are publishing books, papers, everything. So now it is no more significant that you say that I published a paper or I have written a book, because everybody is doing it. Most important is the quality of the publication, which shows that you have where you published it. Only then you will get the value of a publisher or of an author. Hence, take research seriously. Don't resort to plagiarism to avoid problems in your career. So always have the link of this particular presentation in your WhatsApp group, because WhatsApp now enabled a U channel separately, wherein you can store whatever is relevant in that group, and also share it with your colleagues, students, and in your department groups and other places. So I join Sandeep and Subramaniam, Devakar, and other faculty in thanking Dr. Aninda Bose. Thank you very much. Sandeep, please.
Easy. Thank you, Aninda ji, and thank you all. And I think I will request my team to take the screenshot, so that that is for the documentation purpose. And we, as Professor Subramaniam has said, we are organizing a series of such different sessions on different topics. So we expect everyone to join those sessions as well. So thank you very much and have a nice day, everyone.
Thank you, Anand. Thank you.
And this link is active only for 10 minutes. So we request everyone to give their feedback, and that will serve as a giving the certificate as well. Yeah. So thank you.